Hello. Hello. Can you guys hear me? Is my background really loud? I have the AC running because it's pretty hot in here. Is it too loud or what? Good. All right, cool. Well, tonight I basically just wanted to do like a quick little night guy. I'm not sure exactly how it's gonna turn out, but I figured it'd be cool to just do something a little different because I don't ever really do like demos where like I actually talk about what I'm doing. I more or less just kind of take a break from work and then do something. So I figured it'd be cool to do something like this and then maybe post it up on YouTube or something. But yeah, I'm gonna be going through my process, and you guys can feel free to ask me questions or anything as I just go through it. But yeah, shouldn't take me too long. Hopefully, I got a small, really loose sketch that I'm gonna be working from. So first of all, I always do this thing in everything, and it's kind of obvious, but I don't always talk about it. My big shapes with my characters. Like first off, this crop is using the golden rule, and well, it's a golden ratio, but basically, there's a really cool thing now in CS6 where you can switch the crop to all sorts of different things. I think it's pretty awesome. You can do the golden spiral and all that stuff. So there's all different kinds of compositions in here, but you should get it if you don't have it. It's really cool. So I always work with really big shapes, and this is like a really easy way to catch people's eyes. So the one I'm going to be doing now is just basically one huge triangle. And the knight's going to fit right in the middle of that. I don't always put the shape there, but I figured I'd put it there for reference for anybody who's watching this. I usually just wing it though. And then I don't really care about sketches. I stay super loose. I do it in my sketchbook all the time. I'm not a huge fan of, people who. I mean, like it's cool when people can do it, but I think a lot of people put too much into sketchbooks, where they kind of lose the point. Where it's about sketches, it's about ideas and placement of things. It's not about doing a finished, pretty picture. So I always do these really loose things with like scribbles and shit. Like I don't ever really stick to anything. Which works for me. And I feel like I'm constantly like working up the sketch as I go and finish my images, which I kind of enjoy because then it's never like I get to a point where I'm working from like a perfect layout. I'm still like correcting and fixing things, which I know a lot of people kind of like, don't ever do that. But I don't know. It keeps me like active through the whole process. Have I used the mixer brush in this? No, I haven't. I don't really play with any of the brushes. I mean, like I'm so used to using earlier versions of Photoshop. I don't know if the mixer brush is like an exclusive thing to CS6, but I never really like felt the need to really expand and do anything like that. So yeah, my voice is weird. It's because I've been like sick. I don't know. My voice has just been gone for the past couple days now. I got too excited and I talked for too long the other day. So, I mean, as you can see, I'm pretty much just like staying super, super loose. And this is what I do on like everything. I just have like a general idea of what something's going to be, and then I just work it up, and I work it up, and I work it up, and I work it up till it's done. Maybe it's cool, maybe it isn't. Find out. How much time do I have to myself during the week? Well, I actually have more time to myself like nowadays than I ever did. Where starting out and getting into like freelance and stuff, you end up with a large chunk of your time is just, spent trying to get jobs and constantly doing work on the side so that you're out there and all this stuff, and it's a really huge pain to just like keep up with everything. But I feel like I'm at a point now where it's a lot easier for me to take time off and know that I have work and I don't have to worry, and it's not too much of a big deal to actually go out and do stuff. I've been doing a lot of things lately, but I don't know a general time I have. It varies because sometimes I do have a lot of work. It's inevitable that I'll get stuck into a deadline for, like a whole week. I'll be polishing up an image for a client, and it'll be like, just pretty stressful, whatever, and that'll absorb all my time. But other weeks I'll be, just coming off a project, and I'll be working up, a new contract or something for another job. So I'll have a little bit of time in between to go out and do things. Like the other day, I went skydiving. That was pretty sweet. Going to get like my gun license in a little bit, and then I'm going to just do a bunch of stuff. I just like care less now. There's one thing that I've come to realize, and just like doing all this stuff, is that I spend a whole lot of time. If you're freelancing like me, you might understand where all your time is spent inside, so it becomes a weird thing where it's all of a sudden you haven't really done a lot of stuff. So I'm trying to just do whatever, as soon as I think of doing something, I pretty much just like schedule to do it immediately. And that's been working out. But yeah. So basically, it's just a huge triangle shape, super easy. It's just a powerful shape, and I always kind of work with just big, strong shapes. I feel it works the best. I had no formula for charging in the early time when I was starting out doing freelance. At really no point was I just comfortable saying whatever. Basically, it took me a while to really get comfortable naming prices, and I never really knew. I mean, like anybody doing it, it's just kind of like you wing it at first. You think you get it right, and if you don't, then you don't. And sometimes you find out that you undercharged for a certain job, or you get to a certain level in doing what you're doing, and all of a sudden, like, your rates are way below what they should be, and it's always kind of weird. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't want to say like anyone. Like, I used to talk about that stuff all the time, but I think it's kind of like, I don't know, it's weird because if you say one single rate, like, oh, this is what it is, I might be wrong. Like my experiences starting out, where I would lowball myself in the opinion of a lot of people. What my idea back then was that I would undercharge so that I would get the work, and I was doing it more for the experience than anything else. And I would just make myself do a lot of work so that, like, I knew that I wasn't good enough at the time, where I would do like I remember really, really early, like this definitely doesn't count as a good example, but like really, really early on, I was doing like $20 jobs, and that was only like once. Only once did I do that, and that was at the very, very start when I hadn't done anything. It was terrible. So I I did that at first, and I wouldn't advise that you lowball yourself that low. But in my head, I was like, oh, I just want a job. Like, I don't care. Because I'm not as good as some of the other guys that are trying to get it. So I'm just going to go crazy low so that I can make myself work really hard at it. And I don't care about the money. But now it's totally the opposite, where I always go way higher than my expectations are, because I know that, you're always kind of like, I mean, at least for me, I've always had sort of like like you think you understand how much something's worth, and then you don't. All of a sudden you're just going crazy low, and you don't even realize it. Like, I work on a lot of advertising stuff now, and advertising, there's a lot of money, and it's easy to put yourself in a place where you're like, oh, well, I'm not worth that much money, when in reality it's like, it's not about how much you're worth, it's about how much money they're willing to spend on something like that. So I don't know, you kind of have to change and evolve how you think about that kind of stuff as you move forward in your career and all that. So it's always kind of different at each stage. I don't always use this technique, but I mean, right now I'm just doing something simple, like, just something so I can show what I do for like a quick piece. Something I've done a bunch so that it hopefully doesn't come out bad. Nope, I never took classes. This was all just a learned thing. But everything's on the internet, So yeah, I never felt a big need to do that. I, of course, never had a lot of money. I've said that a bunch of times. But yeah, I just never felt the need to go to school if I could do it on my own, which I was fairly sure I could if I put in enough time. Yeah, I'm gonna go with something really, really simple. I'm gonna go with like a kind of like, in my head, I'm like, oh, it'd be cool if I did like a reddish armor, like reddish, like Imperial Guard, almost red from like Star Wars. I always love those kind of designs where it's just like stark, unrealistic colors in the armor, like Dracula from that terrible one with Keanu Reeves. It's not that bad. I love like gold sets of armor, and I also love like I love little things that a lot of people don't do. Where, I mean, I'm definitely gonna do it as I move forward, but let me save this first. Basically, like, I like doing things where you could tell that like there was gold leaf in like the armor or something, and it's sort of chipped away over time, like he's worn it, and he's been like in battle or whatever. I like those kind of little details that a lot of people kind of ignore. that stuff always stands out to me as like really cool. Like if I'm watching a movie and I see it, like they pay attention to that kind of stuff in like Lord of the Rings, or in like I don't know. They do a lot of like worn stuff in like Ridley Scott movies and things like that. Those always stand out to me. It's really cool. Yeah, Game of Thrones is cool. Yeah, I've always been obsessed with like the little things, like little details and all that. It used to be like a I mean, I guess it is still, but um, it was like a crazy crutch for me when I was really young. Like I remember when I was like in middle school and like the beginning of high school, I would always end up doing these like these super detailed, like to the point where it's ridiculous. Like if you ever watch Dan, you know, Dan's live stream, me and him, we used to sit around in school and we would just basically like it was almost like it was like better. Your drawing was better if you could draw like every blade of grass. It was so stupid. And we actually used to do that. It's just terrible, terrible decisions. I like CS6 a lot. I like it a lot. I love the interface of it way more than any of the other ones, and I like that it feels a lot more. It feels like it's tailored for illustrators now, as well as photographers, as opposed to a lot of the other versions where it just feels like it was an afterthought, like they didn't even think about it, like it was just kind of there and convenient. Whereas this feels more like a tool than in the other ones. Um, yeah, let me go over a couple things that I'm kind of skipping because I'm just kind of looking at the chat. Here's just a couple little process things. My whole sketch here is that's just regular drawing, grayscale, you know, put it in the simple little values in the sketch. And then I come on and I use a multiply layer right here. I actually just select the tone I use for the lines and I just kind of brush it in. I like to keep it really soft so that it kind of just blends into the background, because as I work up the harder shapes, like if I were to go like, if it were as unfinished as it is right now, but it were all hard shapes, it's kind of like I mean, at least for me, it's a lot harder for me to bring it to a finish, because then I almost have to blend out all of the sketchy hard shapes at the end, as opposed to just having it be all soft with the soft brush. I'm using like I'm using the soft round with noise turned on, and basically like I like the approach this way so that as I move forward, it's a lot easier to get rid of my underlying work. But yeah, so this is a multiply layer as well, and it's basically just dropping in values, and then I come in with a color layer and just put in a few more, varying opacity depending on, you know, how rich I want it to be. And then I use a multiply layer again to start bringing in more tones. And it's nothing like concrete. Like I just basically go around the image and I select colors that are already on it, and I just brush those in so that I'm just constantly laying on top of it with colors that are already there. And I'll move them around the image as well. Like I'm not just gonna stick them in the like I'm not gonna take the armor colors and then put them only on the armor. I'm gonna put them on the little cape thing he has, and just around, so that it feels like everything's kind of in some sort of unity. I don't want to have one color stand out as like, oh, that feels like you just kind of color picked that and dropped it in. I want it to feel like they're all blending pretty well and they feel like they're all in the same place and same little environment and whatever. And for the background, I'm not going to use any like textured brushes or anything like that because I want it to feel soft and atmospheric. So I'll continue to use that soft round brush on the background and build up and well, then I'll build up textures on the armor and stuff using a textured brush. Everybody keeps saying this, and this is something that I don't understand. And I don't mean it to belittle anybody or anything like that. But canvas size and resolution really doesn't matter at all. It's the question I see like more than anything else. I never really understand why people ask it because it's just not important at all. It's like, I mean, like you can never tell. Like, I don't think like it's either a callback to the jokes we were making earlier in the day or it's legit question. You can never tell because sometimes it is, you know. No, 300 dpi isn't important specifically for print. A lot of times I have to work in 72 dpi for marketing images. They're just massive. So, you know, it really doesn't matter. I'm working on a thing for, I worked on a thing for Comic-Con, and it had to be a big, huge poster, and it's, you know, it's like 72 dpi and just really, really big. So it really doesn't matter. I mean, it's just the size, really. Like the actual size of the image in print, you know? Yeah, which processor? So I kind of want to do like a cool thing, and I like to do like different kinds of lighting effects where I try and really think about the space that I have to work with and how I can make it pop. So what I wanted to do, and I'll just point around, like right here on the chest, I'm going to have the light coming down, but it's going to be like in front of his face, so I'm going to have it sort of protruding out like this from the chest, and I want it to catch the light here on the surface and then bounce back up onto the face so that I can do like a cool little underlighting thing and give it a little bit more of a mood because he's just a guy standing there. So I always try to think of that kind of thing as I like work it up and plan out what the image is going to be. And I can also do like, you know, like if I go in right now, I can sketch in like another idea where, you know, if I have the two side lights coming in like right here, I could also pop it forward by just doing like this sort of side lighting thing. And the reason I like nights so much is because there's so many little details to catch in the shadows, you know. So like as the form sort of recedes or protrudes, I can catch on all the little points of like filigree, and it makes it easier to render out like a three-dimensional form. See what I mean? So like I'm just kind of doing like little squiggle things to show you that, you know, it's a way to bring him forward off of that background. But another thing I would probably do is darken it around his head just to bring him forward even more. Or I can keep it subtle and do my other idea. But a lot of the time doing this sort of work and you know, like a high render sort of thing for a poster or something, you gotta keep everything's popping and popping and popping, and it's pretty much like the main thing is to catch somebody's eye with such high contrast that I almost, that I get so used to doing it that it just becomes like this thing that I just do in like everything. I don't even mean to. I, I'm trying to go back and be a little bit more subtle with my lighting instead of doing like constant high impact stuff, but it's kind of weird. Gotta like come back from it all the time. Who do I go for crits? Just people that are either working on the same sort of things or, you know, Dan's always around and he's really honest with me. And, yeah, I mean, I don't have like a ton of people that I go to for crits specifically. I mean, just anybody I can trust. I don't really use the lasso a lot, but I will right now because I just want to do this pretty quick. It's an easy way to define the shadows on something like this where I know he's kind of like a spiky dude. So I don't really feel bad squiggling around with the lasso tool. I never use the smudge. I'm not using a Genius tablet. Why did you guys stop doing critters? Basically just ran out of time. Like I had like when we started it, I had an easy like sort of position, and then immediately after that, I started getting into doing like way bigger jobs, and it was just unmanageable. Like I know I talked about it a few times on Dan's stream. Like a lot of my jobs are like they're just too random. Like I'll get a job over the weekend and they just say like, it has to be done Monday, and I have to do like this big, I do a lot of like photo editing and stuff and painting over photos and whatever else for, film or anything, and those jobs just end up being ones that are sort of spontaneous where all of a sudden they just need it, and it doesn't really allow me to have like that sort of window of time where I can just like set a schedule where we wanted to have the critters thing be like a weekly sort of deal where we keep up with it, we do crits every week, we have a consistent thing going, but it was just never going to happen. I mean, it did go good for a little while. Oh yeah, that stupid little smoke detector thing. That's in the hallway of my apartment building. I actually opened it up today to tear the battery out of it, but there like was no battery inside of it. I was like, oh okay, I guess fuck me. No, my dogs don't care. I care. It's so annoying. I can like hear it through my headphones when I'm like listening to music. It's so high pitch. Hear it? It's so annoying. Is advertising work, posters and covers, or do you have to do graphic design as well? I never have to do graphic design. I pretty much just do posters. I haven't done any covers yet. I mainly do like just a lot of like, I don't know, billboard kind of things and random little advertisements for certain companies. It's really different every time. It's never the same kind of job. So basically, like whatever they need me to do, I do it. It's just kind of out of the blue, and they'll be like, "This is for this," and I'm like, "Okay." Try and figure out how to do that. It's kind of weird because I'm not used to it, really. I mean, I kind of am now, but like at first it was strange. I had to change my approach completely with how I did all my textures, and I mean, like, really the thing that got me that job was doing the Ninja Turtles stuff, where I kind of did the Ninja Turtles thing as like, I wanted to do Ninja Turtles, of course, and it was going to be fun, but at the same time, one of the main things I was trying to get down throughout the whole process was a better grasp on texturing everything, because that had been one of my problems starting out. I mean, like, when I started getting work was like all my textures ended up looking the same, where like there was no distinction between metal and you know skin and all this other stuff. So that series got me a lot of that kind of work, where I ended up doing just like close-up shots on skin and metal and debris and all this stupid stuff, and yeah, it's pretty cool. What helped you with textures? It was pretty much just trying to figure them out. Like I look at like photos and try and figure out how I could imply things, and it was just a lot of studies and stuff while I was working on everything. It wasn't like a direct study. It was more like, I would sit there and just sort of stare at it and be like, okay, how do I imply that with what brush? So I'd like go through my brushes and be like, what would be the easiest way to do metal? What would be the easiest way to imply that the skin is kind of leathery? How could I do it quickly so that, like if this were a job, how could I do this in like an hour? Like I'd ask myself like just questions like that as I was doing the work, and just trying to get faster and faster at understanding exactly what it was I was rendering, and not just winging it all the time, which is what I was doing for forever. Was just winging it and trying to get it right. And if I didn't get it right, I'd go look for reference. So yeah, try to just change it to have the reference in front of me, look at it, and be like, okay, put it away, open up the image, figure out what I wanted each thing to be, actually put like an idea to it. Like, okay, this turtle, he's gonna be leathery, he's gonna be bumpy, he's gonna be wrinkly. How do I do that and make it look semi-real? Obviously, I mean, like looking back at those, none of them are real. But it was fun to try. How long did it take me to make one of them? It kind of varied, but it was anywhere from like 8 to 20 hours. Do you still use photo textures? No, not unless it's like I said, not unless it's for like a marketing job or something where I only have 24 hours to do it. Like there are some things that are just ridiculous, and it's really hard to not use some sort of photo texture to help me sell an idea, because at the end of the day, that kind of job, all it is selling an idea. Like It's not like art critics are going to look at it and be like, hey, that's a photo texture. They're just going to be like, is it cool or is it not cool? Or did you do it? It's a concept. So if you can't execute on it, then you're not doing a good job. And it's not so much about, integrity. It's just about doing something cool. So sometimes on those jobs I'll use photo textures. But on my stuff, personally, I don't use photo textures. The only way to learn anatomy is to just do it. There's nothing I can tell you that'll be like, hey, you just clap your hands and pray to God. You just have to sit down and be like, all right, for the next 3 years, I'm going to study, and it's going to be crazy, and eventually I'll know something. Like you just have to put in time. That's all it is. There's no shortcuts to any of this. There's no easy answers. It's just a matter of working hard and doing it. I actually encourage everybody to do some matte painting once in a while. I know I've been talking about the jobs I've been doing, and I've learned just so much just painting over photos. It's crazy. Like, I learned so much about my values, what like what I think I know and what actually is, and having them directly next to each other is, it's just like daunting. Where I'm like, oh wow, I don't really understand what I'm doing, and then I got to figure it out, and it's pretty cool. Like I definitely encourage everybody to give it a shot. It's fun. It's a little different. You're not having to do everything, but to try and make everything seem like it fits together is a cool challenge. How do I answer questions and paint at the same time? Practice. I'm not even thinking though. Like I've done so many of these kind of things that it's like autopilot. And I'm using a lighting situation that I use a lot just so that I'd be easier to sit here and talk to you guys, because I wanted to do like a little demo thing. If you guys have any questions as well about like exactly what I'm doing, you can feel free to ask. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's even easier for me to do this right now because I'm not even thinking. Which you might be like, oh, that's crazy, but reality is I've done so many of these that it's almost like second nature. It's like you might look at a skateboarder do like a kickflip for the first time and be like, oh, that's crazy. That's because he's done it a million times. It's just a trick. Yeah, you want to see the face. Super loose. Yeah, nothing crazy. I'm just trying to have fun. I also do, let me zoom in for a bit. When I feel something's like too flat, like, it's not really details, these are just sort of sketchy whatevers. It's not really anything crazy, but like in here, it feels flat in the face, so I'll add like just little ribs or something to the armor. Uh, just something to give it a little bit more depth, where it's receding in space a little bit more. I like doing stuff like that. No, nobody's vacuuming. That's my AC is on. It's way too hot in here to do this without having an AC on, so I just left it on so that I could actually do a live stream comfortably. Otherwise, I'd just be dying and be all sweaty. Am I going to the San Francisco workshop? I think so. Not 100% sure, but I think so. Gotta buy my plane ticket. Any tips on negative space? Use it to make shapes read. Choose big shapes. Big, strong shapes. Alright. Now I'm going to start going around with like an overlay layer and bump up colors and stuff. Just 100% opacity with little highlights on the armor and stuff. I'm going to keep this whole thing pretty loose. Is my brush free for download? I don't have like any real set brushes, but I'll eventually put them up somewhere. I need to have like a legitimate website. There's a few things I want to do, but I don't have anywhere to put it. What is the actual effect of the brush flow when painting? I don't know any actual real knowledgeable answer for that. I just know that it is less. I always love that stuff. I never know that kind of thing. Like, I never know anything about actual technical things in Photoshop. I've just used it so much that I just don't even need to really know anymore. Like, I know what it does when I'm painting it, but I've never needed to know for any real reason. Will the old streams be available again? I didn't like delete them or anything. Those are just gone because livestream deletes them. My brush is at 100%, but I don't keep it there. It's just whatever the image needs, you know. Yeah, I do a lot of like overlay stuff now, just so that I can like get super high contrast, and I usually only do that to like sell like a sort of cinematic kind of look, just super high contrast. Because this is still really sketchy. I keep it really loose when I'm doing my sketches though, because I just want to bring the value levels to like a sort of almost like finished look of like, yeah, it's true, this is what it'll look like when it's done, but I'm gonna have to go back and render everything back up to that level eventually. Do you ever run into a printing problems because the high contrast is most of your personal work as far as the darks taking over the image? No, I mean, I don't like print on like normal printers. Like I'll have a guy print them for me on like a really nice paper, and he has a really awesome printer, and it's all like just the value range is pretty much the same exact thing I have on my monitor, so I've never really had that problem ever. When outside, it would be a good way to contrast your main subject. Depends where you place them. Like if they're in the woods, it's easy to do cast shadows from trees or breaking branches or anything like that. You just have to know what's around that you can utilize to make a nice, like a decent sort of, lighting setup, because there's all kinds of contrast. You just have to play with what's around, usually. One thing I do a lot is like stay pretty much like this far out from the image when I'm rendering it, because I can constantly see how everything's affected, and it helps me make big decisions, because a lot of the times when you're working, it's hard to go in and just get rid of stuff, because you put in all these little details, you put in all this stuff, but really it's not benefiting the image, so you should probably get rid of it, but you tend not to because of the work. And I like to stay this far away, like when I'm working, so that I can just do these big broad strokes and just get rid of everything. And I don't really ever go in and do any crazy level of detail unless it's right in the focal point, in the face or something. I'm going to go in with like a rich red, like I was talking about earlier, and start making the armor. Maybe another tone, introducing it here and there. Maybe a different part of the mask or something. I like bringing in color in places where it's not like the entire armor, like doing little design things. Like if I went in and made it like a part of the design, who knows if it'll look cool. I don't really care. But I can play up my design a little bit more if I start to go in and draw around the shapes that are already kind of implied. This is a soft light layer. And I'll do a few of these. I won't stick to any one thing or be like, hey, it can only be this design. Like I'll just go in and draw a bunch of things that I like, and maybe it stays in the arm or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it just needs to be less intense. I don't know. But it's fun to play around and see if there is a better idea than what you were doing. Just something stark, because it's such a grayscale image. And I can play with the hue, saturation, see if I like a different color better. I kind of like the gold better. And then I'll erase it where I feel that it doesn't need to show that much color. It's not catching that much light, so it won't be as vibrant. So I'll erase that out. My brush set to like 30% opacity, It's pretty low. So since this is like a soft light layer, it's still affected by the light in places. And I can go in where, like if you see right in here, right in here, the band of gold that I had painted, it touches the highlight, so I have that band of gold. I have the little highlight of it. So I can take that, I can select that color, and I can start drawing with it around in my other parts. So I can start detailing like that, like those bands that I had sketched in are little filigree bands. So I can easily just rush in and do this over my sketch, just to reinforce that it's part of the design. And I'm not doing anything crazy, I'm kind of just scribbling around, not keeping in mind that it's anything specific, because you wouldn't even see it. If you're looking at the sky, you're not going to see every single little bit of design, because it's whenever you see armor from a distance and there is this kind of filigree work, it just looks like scribbles. So make it look like scribbles, and it'll look more realistic than if you went in and drew every single little thing. Hey, Bjorn. But yeah, not that I'm going to go crazy on this guy or anything. Just an example. So, I mean, now I can go in and get rid of parts and whatever. Erase, because not everything needs to catch a highlight. Select another tone, a little bit brighter. Catch it on the parts that are facing the light. And I can bring my focus back into the face by doing it a little bit more around the eyes and those little details. But still, it's just a sort of sketch thing, so, I don't have to go crazy with it. Just make believe like it's finished. Just selling an idea of what it might look like. And now I go in, now that I kind of have an idea of what he is and what he's going to look like and blah blah blah, I can go in and start fixing some stuff. Add my little bits of contrast. Some cheap textures. And I can also cut into these highlights because they feel a little too obvious that they were just sort of scribbled. Like this sort of stuff on the side, it looks like just a brush, you know what I mean? It looks like I had a small little brush and I scribbled it in. So I can take a texture brush and just cut into it a little bit here and there, and all of a sudden it looks like it's in something, some metal or whatever. And I can just grab that color and bring it in a little more, and then grab the other color and bring that back a little more, so it feels like it's just sort of catching light in random places. Bring more shadow into the highlight, make a little bit more contrast, and pull the highlight back and do the same. But yeah, this is like a sketch I would send to a client, just with the values all sort of mapped out. Like, and I won't, like, if I take it to finish, I won't take this to finish. Yeah, like I won't take this image that you're looking at and bring it to finish. I'll go back a couple steps, and when it was a little cleaner and simpler, and I'll use this as a reference, and I'll do a cleaner build up to this so that I don't have to work over so many loose details, because it's more to show the client where I'm headed, as opposed to it's gonna be this exact thing. It's just an idea of the finish. Because there isn't enough value range to really carry this right now. I'd have to do a lot of extra stuff. Hey, thanks. Glad you liked the Akira thing. Yeah, I don't really do a lot of environments, but it's fun to take a break and do that kind of thing sometimes. And the main thing I want to get rid of is, obvious lines that are still there from the sketch. And like I was talking about before, when I started this, how I like to keep my base image really soft, using the soft round brush, so that when I do this part, there aren't a lot of really hard details in the underlying sketch that I need to work over that are kind of like calling for too much attention, which happens a lot. They used to happen a lot to me in the beginning, and I was like, oh, I just need to cut out that step because it's wasting a lot of time. If I keep, rendering my base drawing and stuff like that, it just ends up as a lot of overworking and gets a little annoying. So I just kind of got rid of it. I have like a sketch in my sketchbook that I'm kind of looking at, or that I was looking at. The sketchbook guy has horns, though. Maybe he should have horns. I don't know. Maybe not. Then he'd look a lot like that dude from Final Fantasy. That was the only reason I didn't do it initially. One of the judges or whatever. But yeah. Anyways. So again, another overlay layer just to see if I should bump up the contrast even more. Maybe I don't need to. Maybe I should. Who knows? But for the sketch, I like to do that just to see if it works for presentation's sake. You know, does it show that this dude's gonna pop when he's done? Now I can cut in with these sort of highlights from the side and make him look a little sharper around the head. Like that side lighting is catching on the rims of the armor and stuff. And I can pop all that forward and use it to show off little snippets of detail. But like I said, I'm not even going in here and actually rendering stuff out. I'm just sort of squiggling around to imply the fact that, you know, there could be something there, some design work. And he's not just wearing some bare suit of armor. Of course, you can go overboard. I love that stuff so much that I always go overboard. And I'll bring some red to the inside. And I can always do extra stuff. Maybe he has a flag behind him. Maybe it wraps in a convenient way. Dragon on his shoulder. I could do that. So, yeah, just little simple things. Little crappy dragon sketch. Thanks for the suggestion, Bjorn. But, yeah. I'm not gonna go too much more into doing this, because I was just gonna do a sketch, but, yeah, that's pretty much everything. I mean, again, this isn't to do like a final image, but just to have something to show. Could go more interesting, tatter a cape, whatever. If you want to go super typical, which I do. Yeah, subsurface scattering. I could add little dusty things floating around and smoke and stuff. It's super cheesy. I always end up doing that stupid stuff. Anyways, so yep, that's about it. I'm gonna get off of this. That was my quick night sketch guy. Probably gonna put this up on YouTube because I wanted to do a couple like demo things. I'm gonna do some more, but yeah, this is just some fun thing to do. I hope it helped in some way. If it didn't, I apologize for wasting all of your time. No, but thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Good night, everybody.